Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be looking at the fourth and final season of Ozark. So before we begin, I just want to get a few things out the way first. Firstly, this review is about a week or so late, and that's because my previous video, which was my review of the final season of Game of Thrones, took me about a week to do, and yeah, it came to about 25 minutes long. But I had a really good time working on it. I hope you enjoy it if you are interested in checking it out. Secondly, I'm fully aware that Ozark's final season was split into two parts, with part 1 being released in January and part 2 being released on the 29th of April, not too long ago. And lastly, if you're not caught up on the first 3 seasons of the show, then maybe check those out first because this video will contain a few spoilers. But if you are caught up and you want to check out this video, don't worry, it's going to be spoiler free. For the most part, there will be a spoiler section towards the end where I will discuss the ending. So in season 4, the tensions between the Bard family, the FBI, and Navarro's cartel come to an all-time high, putting many people's lives in danger in the process. So much like seasons 1, 2, and 3 before it, Season 4 is another excellent addition to the show, but I do have one major issue with it, and that's the ending. We'll discuss that later in detail. But for now, let's jump into the review. So firstly, this season opens with a flash forward to what is obviously a very pivotal plot point in the story. None of the other seasons had attempted this idea, and it was executed very well given how effective the build-up leading to it was. Navarro needs Marty and Wendy to secure a deal with the FBI that will grant him immunity from prosecution if he turns himself in. Of course, this isn't going to be easy, but it needs to be done because Navarro suspects that his nephew, Javier, who is introduced in this season, could be plotting to have everyone killed. And when I say everyone, I mean Marty, Wendy, their kids, and Navarro himself, so that he can take over the cartel. Marty and Wendy plan to sell heroin to Claire Shaw, the CEO of a Chicago-based pharmaceutical company. So as a result, she gets tangled up in all of this as well. And speaking of Marty and Wendy, I was so wrong in assuming that Marty was pretty much the Walter White of Ozark, when it was actually in fact Wendy the whole time. A lot of people have pointed this out, and I can see why, especially in this season. I mean, she took risks throughout the show that not even Walter White himself would consider. And it's in this season where she begins to lose her sanity with everything that's going on around her. And this results in some of Laura Linney's best performances in the entire show. Helen's death is being investigated by a police detective by the name of Mel. Mel is one of those detectives who has a few quirks to him, so he was interesting to watch at times. Despite having differences with Darlene due to her relationship with Wyatt, Ruth agrees to help her distribute her heroin elsewhere since Javier won't allow that. He sees it as unnecessary competition with the cartel. And Julia Garner, who plays Ruth, was just absolutely phenomenal this season. If she doesn't get herself an Emmy or a Golden Globe or whatever, then something is wrong. Sam is now at a low point. You know, he's single again and he works as a receptionist for Ruth at the motel that she runs. But things start to look up for him, especially in the second half. This season also introduces Camila, the sister of Omar Navarro and the mother of Javier, and she has a very pivotal role this season, one that I did not expect. And without getting into spoilers or anything, I will say that this season also brings back a familiar face from earlier on in the show. I think you'll be surprised as to who it is, and it made sense for this person to come back. This season consisted of 14 episodes as opposed to the usual 10, and was split into 2 7-episode parts. Part 1 is mostly about the setups, and because of that, Part 2 is filled with all of the payoffs. So the first half is totally worth it, just to see how everything is paid off in the second half. There's also some really great directing yet again. You know, aside from Jason Bateman returning to his directing duties, in this case, he directed the finale, actress Robin Wright directed 2 episodes, and Laura Linney, who plays Wendy, also directed an episode, and I hope she directs more TV episodes in the future. She's really talented. So, this brings us to my one and only gripe with this season, and that's the finale. Before I get into spoilers, this finale, as an ending to the show, it's going to be very, very polarizing. I've seen mixed reactions all across the board, and in a way I'm kind of glad that it's very divisive. You know, this isn't like Game of Thrones where the ending is just so abysmal that everybody hates it. Now some people out there like it, but most people, including myself, either hate it or just end up feeling underwhelmed. As for me, it was somewhat anticlimactic. It didn't do all of the characters justice, and the final scene was such an abrupt way to end the story once and for all. It just left too many questions unanswered. Think Breaking Bad meets Sopranos, but in all the wrong ways, perhaps. Okay, so this is your final warning. If you don't want the ending spoiled, then just skip to this time on the screen. So to discuss the finale in detail, we have to go all the way back to episode 7. Wyatt and Darlene were both killed by Harvey because Darlene refused to stop distributing her heroin, and Harvey figured it out. Ruth wants revenge and gets it in the next episode, leading Wendy and Marty to convince Camila that Omar did it. Then Camila tries to have Omar killed from the inside, until he comes clean and admits that Wendy and Marty simply told him that someone killed Harvey. Then we get to the finale, and it was excellent for the most part until the last 15 to 20 minutes or so. Basically, Marty and Wendy are hosting this fundraiser that the season was building up to. Claire's there, Ruth and Rachel are there, and Camila so happens to show up there as well. She sits at the same table as Marty, Wendy, and Claire, and manages to coerce Claire into revealing who killed Harvey. She says it was Ruth Langmore, and so Camila goes after her. This results in Ruth, the one character who I think should have come out on top of everything, getting killed off. And just before that, Omar gets killed while being transferred to another prison. His death was kind of tragic to me because, yes, he was the head of a drug cartel, but in all honesty, he wasn't really that bad of a person, you know? And the sad thing is that even if Harvey wasn't killed, he probably would have killed Omar himself. So it was a fitting yet bittersweet end for him. And I now consider him to be one of the most underrated TV villains. And then the Buds go back home, only to find that their home has been broken into by Mel, who hasn't gotten away for some reason. He's got the rabbit on with Ben's ashes in it, and he passes it off as potential evidence, which can confirm the Buds' involvement in criminal activity. And then Jonah just grabs a shotgun and shoots Mel, and as soon as he pulls the trigger, it just cuts to black. And as soon as that happened, I said to myself, no, don't play music, don't roll the credits. What? That's it? Are you kidding me? 4 seasons for that? 5 years for that. Well, congratulations Breaking Bad, you're still number 1. And yeah, so many questions are left unanswered. You know, did Jonah actually end up shooting Mel? Did he end up shooting maybe Wendy or Marty? Will they get away with it? Seems very likely, even though that's not really what I wanted. Will the police ever find out that Mel was shot by Jonah? What's gonna happen when Rachel finds out that Ruth is dead? What about the rest of the money that they have to launder? What happens next? We'll never find out because that's it. Now here's how I think it should have ended. You see, Wendy could have died in the car accident at the beginning of the finale, or she could have died trying to save Ruth from being killed by Camila in some way. Maybe Ruth kills Camila and manages to escape the Ozarks with Rachel somehow, And Marty probably figures out that Wendy had died, and so maybe he goes home to tell the kids, and then he gets arrested by Mel. And yes, Marty and Wendy were doing what they were doing simply because Marty's farm got in trouble with the cartel and they had to end up paying that money. But they became reapers in a way throughout the show. So many people died because of them. So much so that I believe Marty and Wendy getting arrested or killed off was probably the only way for this to stop. And because Marty was technically forced into doing all of this, perhaps he could get a reduced sentence. Who knows? Now, just to go back to the ending that we actually did end up getting, I can see why some people out there like it. They appreciate the boldness of it. I do as well, it's just that for me it wasn't satisfying. You know, I get that Ruth, in a way, kind of took one for the team by getting killed, and there's a certain ambiguity that comes with the very last scene. But it's been over a week now as of this recording, and I'm still not happy with it. I'm really not. It wasn't a bad finale, but it was just very, very disappointing. And Breaking Bad still remains the superior show overall. So yeah, that was my review of Ozark's fourth and final season, as well as my little rant on the finale. Next time I'm going to be ranking all 4 seasons of Ozark. So thank you all for watching, guys. Please be sure to like the video, share it and subscribe, hit the notification icon. Be safe during this time, and I'll see you soon.